Thanks for joining us during the 6-hour webathon, broadcasting live from Jerusalem, focusing on raising temple consciousness by exploring the biblical, historical, contemporary, and political issues surrounding the Temple Mount, the holiest site in the world.
Next up, Tzipora Peltz, guide and organizer of Women's Ascent to the Temple Mount. Tzipora is the founder of Nashim Leman HaMikdash and pioneer and a leader of the burgeoning presence of women on Har HaBayit. Tzipora will be sharing her unique perspectives on the Temple Mount and on the future of Temple Mount Aliyah for women and men alike.
Hey, we are back. It's me, Lorelei Lair of Radio Free Nachlaot, and you are watching the 3rd annual International Temple Mount Awareness Day program, show, video happening, awesome webcast. We want to thank all of our guests so far. We've had an amazing program, and our guests, our viewers, you guys, that's right, you are watching us on so many different websites, on Radio Free Nachlaot and the Temple Institute and the Jewish Press and Universal Torah and Mount Zion Radio and even Israel National News. It could happen that you are watching us there too. People from all over the world are watching, they're donating. Just wanted to remind you before we even start the segment that you can call the toll-free number in the United States, 1-800-940-9121, and we will take your donations there, or you can go to the Temple Institute's website at www.templeinstitute.org and make your donation online there, and we really appreciate all of your help and support. Why? Because it's all about the Holy Temple. And as we started the show off a couple of hours ago, even though it seems like it was like 5 minutes ago, right? It's going so fast. We were talking about Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which was, of course, yesterday, and it's the birthday of Adam Harishon, which means it's also Chava's birthday. Adam and Chava, they were one being. It was called the human being, and then Hashem divided them so that we could come back together and find our zivugim later. So you understand, of course, that this segment is all about women, and we have an incredible woman with us, a very, very special guest who I have just met for the first time, but I'm totally honored to know her, and I want to get to know her a lot better, and I know that you will also. Her name is Tzipora Peltz, and she is the, founder, leader, moving spirit of an organization that helps bring women up to the Temple Mount, because for so many reasons that we'll go into here, the female energy, the Shekhinah, the female manifestation of the energy of Hashem, as you might know, is sorely lacking in this world. And if there's one thing that's going on in the Temple Mount, it's a feeling of that particular energy being held hostage, in a sense. And I'm welcoming our guest here, and she's going to tell us many fascinating things that you need to listen closely to, especially you women out there. After such a long-winded introduction, Tzipora, thank you so much for being with us. Welcome.
I'm happy to be here.
It's very special to have you here. How long have you been going up to the Temple Mount?
Well, so it's going to be 5 years, okay? I'm thinking about many years, not only 5, but we had a discussion between me and my husband, and Baruch Hashem, it's 5 years that I have this big opportunity to do that. Mm-hmm.
What is it inside you that draws you to go up to Har HaBayit?
Well, it's a special feeling. First of all, we're talking about, we know that we have the privilege to come back to Eretz Israel, to Israel, mm-hmm. to build a land and to build a physical, the physical nation. We have a police, we have a government, we have an army, we have everything. Right. Now we need to build a spiritual level of our nation.
Right.
And the spiritual level, that's what we're talking about, the Beis HaMikdash, the temple. I have the privilege to live very close to the Temple Mount. I live on the Mount of Olives, in an old, ancient house, in an Arab house. That from my bedroom, from my kitchen, I could see the Temple Mount, like the holiest place in the world.
Wow.
And what I see every single day, when I come, I drive back and forth to my house, back and forth, so I see thousands of Arabs going up to the Temple Mount. And on Fridays, they pray there. They go, just yesterday I was going, and a whole bunch of hundreds of women were going out. And I'm thinking to myself, what about us? What about the Jews? This is
Yeah.
this is the center of the Jewish nation. And I just think when it's going to change. But it's a very, a lot of people pray for building the temple, the Beit HaMikdash. But the first stage is actually being on the physical, on the mountain.
Right.
Because it's special energy. Like, first of all, I'll tell you something. When I go up to the Temple Mount, after that I go down to the Kotel, to the Western Wall.
Totally different, right?
Yeah.
Totally, completely different energy.
It's like us. It's like every time I compare it to a son. In many years he wasn't home, and he comes back to the palace, to the king. And then the king tells him, his father tells him, don't come to my house. Don't come to the palace. Wait outside, out of the gate, out of the court, out of the courtyard or whatever. You don't have to be inside. That's when people come to the Kotel. And I want to come, to the Western Wall. We want to be in the palace itself.
I totally get that. So people, just want to tell you a little bit briefly about the geography of Har Habayit. The Temple Mount is actually located above the Kotel. Now, I know you've all been to Jerusalem many, many times, so you understand you are in the Old City, and you go to the Kotel and this big wall, and you think, well, what's behind it? Well, there's an entire world behind that wall that you've never seen if you haven't been up on the Temple Mount. One of the most amazing things about going up on the Temple Mount is walking up this kind of rickety, scary wooden ramp. We love it, it's not so rickety and scary. It's not like maybe going on a ride in Disneyland, but whatever. And you're just walking up and up this ramp, and the Kotel and the Kotel Plaza starts to get very small beneath you. It's a place where, you're used to going, and you're used to looking at this wall like it's so big. All of a sudden you see how small it is, and then all of a sudden you go through this gate, and you're on Har Habayit, which is enormous. It's actually the largest man-made platform on the planet. It's not a natural platform. It is a man-made platform, and the Har Habayit that we know and love today is actually much, much larger than it was during the time of Solomon's temple, which is one of the reasons why we know that we can walk through the outer perimeters of it, because we're not going anywhere near the actual location of the temple, thus negating the entire argument that you can't go up because you might accidentally step on the Holy of Holies, only if you walked way, 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 way on the inside, which you would never do. So, kacha. But anyway, when you're going up to the Temple Mount and you see the perspective of the Kotel below and the people, all of a sudden you're in another world. Like, it's truly an ascension, right? Don't you feel like it's like you're in a way you're halfway to heaven?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's called the gate to heaven. That's what Yaakov Avinu said. That's the gate of heaven. And you see, first of all, that the Kotel is so much small, opposed like what you exactly just described now. And like and the Jews are down there, the Arabs are up there.
Right.
And something's very weird. Like, we came to Israel, we came to Jerusalem,
right.
we're here, and we have to be up there. Now, it's a big issue if you're allowed, you're not allowed. We walk, like you mentioned, only in the areas we're allowed to go.
Right.
We're allowed to. That's a specific Mishnah that says that
right.
Jews, even though they're the unpured, the areas on the Temple Mount. Something, if you spoke about the geography, I just want to say that two main areas in the Temple Mount. We have the temple itself,
right,
and the Temple Mount.
Right.
Okay, it's two areas. So we don't go where the temple is.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's where the Dome of the Rock. That's the Dome of the Rock. That's the rock, the foundation stone, the holiest place in the world. Today is occupied by Arabs. So we don't go there. We do the circle all around. We go to daven. Okay. Every time women come, women ask, "What do you do?" So I tell them, "Okay, I have a recommendation. Come without. You can't go with any. You can't pray on Har Habayit.
You can't pray visibly. You can't let anyone know you're praying.
Right.
But you know what's so cool about being a woman, and especially a Jewish woman, is that we know how to do things on the inside. I know a lot of men who go up, they're constantly getting arrested because they can't stop themselves. They have to I have to say Shema. Okay, take a clue from the women. Like, we've been, should I say, suppressed for a long period of time. So we know how to deal with suppression, in a sense. Like, women know how to do things in a very quiet, inside way that serves us well in that particular situation, yeah?
Exactly. And so, but if it's such a powerful place for praying and davening, and we can't do that.
Uh-huh.
So something, let's say, I recommend women take a sheet and write your name of people that you want to daven,
Right.
pray for women that should get married, women don't have kids, whatever. That's the best place to daven, to pray.
Absolutely. It's the
Like
most
everything
powerful.
goes, like it's such a strong energy.
It's a straight up.
Yeah, straight
Yeah.
up, directly up. And let's say we go, something very special is to go with the bride on her wedding
I
day.
know. I've been on my wedding day, not too
On
long
your
ago.
wedding day. Wow,
I was
that's
married,
special.
Baruch Hashem, on Tu B'Shvat, just, like 6 weeks ago, however long ago Tu B'Shvat was.
Yeah.
And I went up on the morning of my wedding, very, very special, and just gathered up all that Shekhinah energy and brought it into the chuppah, and it was a gewalt. Yeah.
Now, the thing is, all this issue is very new. We started all this process of going like twice a month, like a year and a half ago.
Right.
And we try to bring groups of women like twice a month. Like we have sometimes a group of 10 women, sometimes 20, sometimes 8, doesn't matter. But we try to have, the presence of women up there.
Right.
What we do like to do is after they go up, we take them to like a small restaurant in the old city
Right.
with a coffee, a cake, something, and tell us how was it for your first time, because usually the majority, 90% of the women, it's their first time in the Har HaBayit. So what's your feelings?
Right.
And it's very interesting to hear.
I'm sure it is. I mean, I've been up a lot with women also, that it was their first time, and most women don't feel anything that they thought they were going to feel. It's very, very intense. Let me just ask you, how does your family feel about you going up, and your husband? How's everybody with your work on the Temple Mount?
Okay, so when I got married 10 years ago. And in the beginning, so my husband, he used to go up all the time to Har HaBayit. And in the beginning, he used to follow this rabbi. The majority doesn't let women to go up to Har HaBayit.
Doesn't let women go?
Women.
Lets men go, but no women?
Yeah, that's a big issue. That a lot of rabbis are for this thing for men. They say women is a different issue.
Why?
It's a different issue. Wait, so I'll tell you.
Okay.
So then, the beginning of the years, in the first, that was married in the first years, so I didn't go. But then I was giving like lectures, and I worked also in the Temple Institute, whatever. And you can't talk about Beit HaMikdash without being there. So then I started taking all my kids, and let's say we go up on the holidays, on Sukkot and Pesach. Now for them, I'll tell you, it's not something so special. Why? Because you don't see the Beit Mikdash. You see the mosque, the Al-Aqsa Mosque. You see the Dome of the Rock. You see Arabs. I want them to feel something special.
Right.
So first of all, they wear this Shabbos clothes or whatever. I like to give them candies before. They should feel today's a special day. We're going to the Temple Mount. So you buy them something special, whatever. And so something we do the whole family.
Wow.
Not every time, but like the holidays specifically. Okay. Coming another 2 weeks, we're going to have the Pesach. So hopefully all my kids are going to go up, and it's going to be special.
So you have an organization called Nashim Leman HaMikdash, and you know that I'm just a Kita Aleph Hebrew speaker, so if I'm mispronouncing it, just forgive me, okay?
That was correct.
All right, so it means Nashim is women, Leman is for the sake of, right? HaMikdash, obviously, the base of Mikdash. How many women are in this organization?
Okay, so it depends. We have a small group of 10 women that are very into organizing and giving lectures, and we prepared women to be like a tour guide on the Temple Mount. Okay, so we did a whole tour, and now we have women, because up till now we have rabbis or men that they give like the tour guides on Har HaBayit, and we feel that women gives a different aspect.
Right.
So we have this small group of 10, but the whole thing is that each women should bring. We talk to women just outside. I was talking to other women, and this should bring this woman.
Thank God.
That's the
I
whole
never
thing.
heard, before you said it just now, I never even heard the ideas that there were rabbis that said women shouldn't go. Thank God I never heard that before, people, because you know how mad I would be if I had heard that, and thank God my rabbi is Rabbi Richman, who would never in a million years say that to me. So I just found out something that I didn't want to know, but okay. Moving on.
I'll tell you something about the issue of the rabbis.
Yeah.
Because like I mentioned, like maybe 90% of the rabbis disagree with this
about just going up anyway,
going up
like
to
no matter
women,
who you are.
women
For
should
women.
go, because it's a whole process of getting prepared, getting ready.
Yes.
So what do? We wrote letters
Okay.
to Rabbi saying, listen, we have an organization. We want to follow the halakha.
Well,
We wanna-
obviously.
exactly. We want to go according to the halakha, according to all the laws and everything.
They don't trust the women to be able to deal with their own halachic issues to go up.
No, so they said, look, they told us, we bless you. It's something very special. We can go with, we can't say it out loud, okay, that we give you permission.
Right.
Even though we got a letter from Rabbi, he's the head of Machon HaMikdash,
Okay.
the Temple Institute, Rabbi Yisrael Ariel. He's for our
Right.
organization. We do have rabbis.
Okay.
Rabbi from Efrat, Rav Riskin. We have different kind of rabbis that are for this organization, but still, it's the minority.
Right. So, I think that when, after we go to a break in a little bit, Rabbi Richman will be back on the set with you, and at that time maybe you'll talk a little bit more about some of the halachic complications. So it's not as easy for a woman because a woman is different than a man, and there are certain precautions a woman has to take, and you have to know what's happening with your own body, etc., like that. But you'll talk about that with him. But just moving past that, just as a woman, like the female vibe on Har HaBayit, when I go up there, it's not the easiest thing in the world to go up there. It's not like happy, shiny, happy people holding hands, jumping around, clap your hands. There's joy to be there, and there's a terrible, terrible sense of longing, terrible sense of yearning that's so intense there, more intense than any place I've ever been on the planet. And it's like, it's this intense sense of like somebody reaching out. It's like a beautiful woman captured and held ransom, and you can see her far away in a tower, but you can't reach her. You can just wave at her. Like I always feel like when I'm going up, I'm paying my respects to the Shekhinah, and she knows I'm there. Do you ever feel like that, or am I just slightly weird?
You're not at all. Look, that's for sure. That's one of the feelings of you feel the strong destruction on Har HaBayit.
Right.
Like the Churban. It's like something very, very strong. It's when you go to the Kotel, you have a different feeling.
Right.
You have a different feeling.
Yeah.
You feel it coming to you, something with holiness. Over there, when you go and you see all the Arabs, all the mosques, that's something we try to do.
Yeah.
Not to look at these things.
It's a little bit
Use
of a
the
feeling
imagination.
Yeah.
A woman is good in imagination.
That's right. We're good at that. We're good at imagining, using our imagination, for sure.
So that's something you have to
Yeah.
look at the place and imagine the temple, imagine Beit HaMikdash, imagine all these beautiful things, and try not to see,
Right.
all what's all the mosques and whatever.
It's said that the redemption will come to the Jewish people in the merit of the holy Jewish women. This next time, as it did the last time, we're coming up on Pesach. It's a well-known midrash. Everybody knows that the children of Bnei Israel got to leave Mitzrayim because of the merit of the Jewish women who, I don't know what they did or didn't do, but they did something, or they were a certain way. How can Jewish women today live up to that level of their ancestresses?
That's something to take the force of the women in Egypt. Let's say we know Miriam. So what's special about Miriam and all the other women? They didn't look at the reality. Men are very realistic. They decide to separate from the women because why should we live with the women? Why should we bring babies
Right.
that we know what's going to happen to them? But the women said, we're not going to be realistic. We're going to look way far away. We know that we're going to be redeemed out of, we know that
Right.
Geulah is going to come and Moshe Rabbeinu is going to come and take us out, even though today it doesn't look at all rational.
Right.
And that's the special force of the women. They can see something. And today it's the same thing today. When you look at today of the Temple Mount and Har HaBayit, you can see the different kind of mosques. You have let's say the Dome of the Rock is there from the 7th century. It's more than 1,300 years ago. Things are going to change. The women could believe that things are going to change.
That's right. Things are going to change, and they're going to change right now. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Shalom, Temple Mount Awareness Day International, third annual International Temple Mount Awareness Day is back, and we're sitting with Tzipora Pilz, and she is a true woman of valor, and also I think you must be very courageous because there is some opposition, maybe both in the rabbinical world and in general, as far as a consensus is concerned about women going up to the Temple Mount. And you were talking with Lorelei about some rabbis are against the whole idea, and we have to remember in perspective that there are some rabbis that are against the whole idea of anybody going up to the Temple Mount, and there are so many different, aspects of a very complex understanding of how Jewish law works, and I always look at it that unfortunately we've become as a people somewhat disconnected from these things. They were thought of as not being actual or real for so long, and then we were in exile, so we became so unfamiliar with this piece of real estate in our own backyard that now, even though we might have complicated answers for the most, specific technological issues about astronauts in space and all sorts of microchip technology, when it comes to these 500 cubits by 500 cubits, all of a sudden we're not so sure. But when it comes particularly to the issues facing women going to the Temple Mount, there's another level, another layer of issues. And here we're referring to issues of family purity, and we're not going to go into such specifics, so it's not so fitting for this format, but our viewers, those who understand what we're talking about, know that there are some very special regulations that govern over husband and wife and this type of thing, and that has a direct repercussion for women going out to the Temple Mount. But what I would like to emphasize, and I think this is so important, because again, there's really, Tzipora, there's level upon level of, I'm going to have to use this word, ignorance, right? Taboo, ignorance, not just lack of knowledge, but almost like disinformation, just like, this whole idea of a ban, like no one can go to the Temple Mount because we don't know where anything is, we don't know where the Holy of Holies is, we don't know anything. And then when people talk that way, it makes it sound like all those people who go to the Temple Mount, they're acting irresponsibly, and nothing could be further than the truth. A person has to act with responsibility, with integrity, carefully doing the research, and then we learn how to live our lives as Torah Jews. So this is the point that I want us to make together, because I want you to use this opportunity to reach out to the women in the audience and encourage them to come to the Temple Mount, because that's so important. And I know that you have a message that you want to share with them, but it's doable, right? I mean, is it impossible for women to go to the Temple Mount? Obviously not.
It's not impossible. It's very different from men, like you mentioned. I'll tell you why. A man, he wants to go up to Har HaBayit. He decides that morning, he goes up, he goes to and pures himself in the mikveh, and he goes up, and that's it. A woman's very, very different, okay? She has to be, as we know, she has to be pure, so she's very limited in half of a month. Now, that's why when we in our movement, so we don't encourage women to go up every month even. We want women to go up to Har HaBayit. If she decides between her and a husband that she wants to go, she's going to go 3 times a year, that's fine. If she's going to go 4 times a year, once in 2 months, it doesn't matter. But of course, we're not talking about something daily, because it's something very, very different. But the fact that we know the women go up and going according to the laws, okay? This is something very, very important. That's what we learned this issue, and women that call us, and because that's something I'll mention, a man, there's no differences between different men. Where we have single women that are not married, we have young girls that are, young girls age 5, 6, we have single women, we have brides, kalat, we have married women, and we have elderly women. We have different stages, and each one has a different way of preparation to go up to Har HaBayit. So we learned all this issue, and women that calls us, we speak to her. How old are you? Are you divorced? Are you married? Are you this and that? And our important thing that we follow the rules and the halacha of the rabbis, and something very, very different. That's why I think rabbis are so this against, because they say the minute we're going to say, okay, women could go up to Har HaBayit. Wait a second. We have different kind of groups of women, so each one won't, like, how could one learn from each other? So we said, okay, but like you relied, women in keeping this important mitzvah, taharat mishpacha, okay, the laws of impurity in the family, so you could definitely rely on women in going up to Har HaBayit. So that's why we have, like, we have a sheet that we divide the group writing the laws, the halakha laws of young women, elderly women, whatever the different issues, and that's what we follow. That's what we teach. So it's very, very different than men.
It's different because it's a very personal kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very personal kind of thing. In other words, according to each personal situation, there has to be a certain kind of preparation, and it can be done, is the main thing that we're trying to say. Rabbi Ariel of the Temple Institute is very encouraging of women going to the Temple Mount. We have many women also calling us for this halachic information. I actually have merited to bring many brides over the years, I think maybe dozens, to the Temple Mount. But we really need to emphasize to our viewers that when we're talking about going to the Temple Mount, both men and women, we're talking about an exercise in tremendous care and caution and reverence and fear of heaven and total guidance according to halakha, according to Jewish law. You know, people, God forbid, get the impression that there's some young generation now that's taking the law into their own hands. That's like, you know, whether they're just, you know, like ultra-nationals, or they're just so, you know, headstrong about going to the Temple Mount that they're making their own rules. And nothing could be further than the truth. We're talking here about Torah scholars. We're talking here about the wives of Torah scholars. We're talking about people that are tremendously dedicated to Hashem and to living according to Hashem's word. But to make the impression that, you know, that this can't be done is totally wrong. So, I mean, there must be, it must not be so easy for you, because even in the men's world, it's such a complex issue that in the women's world it's even more so. I think we would like to give a clear message from here that it's not only is it doable, but it's a positive commandment. It's a mitzvah.
Must.
It's a must, right?
I'll tell you. Look, we didn't learn about. We were 2,000 years in exile. Who thought about the Temple Mount? Who thought about it? It wasn't an issue. Okay, we were close in our, in the shtetl, and now by us coming here, we can, like I mentioned before, we can stay in the level of the kotel, the level of the kotel, the Western Wall. We have to go in a higher level, and the minute that you learn and you learn these laws, you can see that it's not only like it's really a must that we be there, and we can't say that 50% of the population, the women, won't be there because it's a little bit harder. Well, what's going to happen if we're not going to be there? Someone else is going to be, like we know the Arabs, and we want to change that. Okay, we want to change this issue, and so that's so we teach, we go, and that's something that we do. We give lectures to women, and first of all, we talk to them. Why should a woman today go up to Har HaBayit? What's so important about being there? And the areas you're allowed to go, the areas you're not allowed to go. How do you prepare yourself, and what do we see? So that's something we try to give groups of lectures and stuff, and a lot of women say, who are you rabbis? And so that's something that we try, like I mentioned before, we try to send letters to rabbis, and some answered us, and some did not. But we're going to continue. We believe that the minute things are going to be from the bottom.
Right.
Okay, things are going to change from the top. It doesn't. We're not sitting and waiting for someone to say, okay, now you could go up. Things are going to change from the bottom. That's for sure.
And that's what we've been talking about that the whole night, practically with every guest, the fact that the Jewish people are changing the facts on the ground, and the Jewish people have that power to right this wrong, really. And one of the things that I think is so beautiful about your vision is the fact that, you know, Jewish women ultimately are responsible for the survival of the Jewish people. And when a woman goes to Har HaBayit and she's so committed to taking that step, then that is going to be a different kind of household. It's going to be a different kind of message to the children. It's going to be a different kind of Torah, because it becomes a Torah of not waiting for a miracle. It becomes a Torah of making a statement to Hashem that in our house we're waiting to do something about the Beit HaMikdash. We're not waiting for it to come on its own. We're waiting to do something. So it's like a whole different way of raising children as well.
I know, and this is something very important, because we have a lot of classes in shiurim today for women. They deal with education for kids. Very something about how do you become a good mother. It's very important. I also have my kids. I know it's very important. What's the good education and everything. But we feel that you need something higher, something that connects to the whole nation, and not only deal with your personal private house. The minute you have this wide perspective and thinking about the house of God, it will reflect on your personal house. Because I like to hear these lectures about education and everything, but it's not enough. It's not enough to stay at that level. And let's say one of the women, something that I mentioned, that after going up to Har Bayit, we go to this kind of a cafe and we drink and we hear the impressions of the women. So one said, after that she called us and she said, listen, I'm a teacher. I went back to work that day. And all my students told me, what happened to you? Where are you? You're shining. You're shining, you're lighting. What? And I started telling them that was in the Temple Mount and Har Bayit. What's the feeling? Also the hard feelings. It's not only because you feel it's very, very, it's not easy to see, the destruction, the Arabs, the mosque, whatever. But I was a light. I felt, and that spread on with my students, my kids. I called my husband, listen, and he was so, and I spoke, let's say I spoke to a woman. I had a connection with a woman from Tzfat. Just a small story. And she's a woman that she teaches the topic of Beit HaMikdash, and she does plays and music with different women. And she's very into making very lively the Beit HaMikdash, but she was never there in Har Bayit. So 2 months ago it was the first time. And she started crying, and she was so full of passion. And she said, I'm going back to Tzfat, and I want to continue this. I want to continue going up to Har Bayit. And she said, I can't stay there in Tzfat. I have to get closer to Jerusalem, and they're moving now to a different place. But that's something that the women that are sharing their feelings, something very special.
Do you feel as a woman maybe more responsible for the fate of the temple and the Temple Mount? Do you feel a mandate to spread this consciousness to other women?
For sure. Look, I'll tell you, I do want to spread this consciousness, but it's not easy. It's not easy because we're in the beginning. I feel what men started going up to Har Bayit, let's say 20 years ago, even more. So that was something very new. What happened to men 20 years ago, now it's happening with us, with the women. I'll tell you an example. I had a lecture for women, elderly women, of Emunah women in Tel Aviv. Women aged 67 years old, very intellectual, nice. It was about Har Bayit. And then I told them at the end of the lecture, now the next stage is to have a tour on Har Bayit. So we made up a date, and it did not work out. Because they were a little bit scared, and this and that. And even though the lecture was very good, so we have to, it's something very, very, first, the consciousness has to change step by step. But that's where...
Same thing as in the men's world.
Exactly.
But you have almost like a double problem, because you have the problem of the general taboo that people have, plus probably within the world of the men going up, they're looking like, the women are going up now? But traditionally, and I know this was mentioned, that's what brings the redemption, because the women are always the one that didn't accept the Lashon Hara. When the spies came back, the women didn't participate with the golden calf, and the women are the ones that have a different kind of vision. So you mentioned about the difficult times on the Temple Mount also, as far as the opposition that we meet there with the Waqf and the situation with the police. It's also something that interests me very much as a person that goes up all the time. Are you treated better than I'm treated? When, because we have a very rough time sometimes with the police, and they're really, trying to make our lives miserable. Do you think they treat you with a little more deference? Are they a little bit more respectful of you?
I think they're more respectful, because women are not coming to antagonize,
We're not going to antagonize either, but
I know. But our chairman of the movement, we have. I'm the spokesman. Her name is Inat Ziv. She has very good connection with the commander of the Temple Mount. And every time before we go up, she says, listen, this day and this, we're going to go up 10, 15, 20 women. And he says, it's okay. So she has good, because due to her good relationships, so they treat us okay, yeah? But still, it's very hard. Women, the essence of women is to daven. Like we know from Hannah, Hanan, Shiloh, she davened, she got her prayer in Shiloh, in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle, and that's something that we cannot do over there. It's hard. So one said, I don't want to go up like this. I want to daven. So you have all these different, you could go with papers.
But it must happen sometimes that you get a little bit of a chance to daven a little bit.
I know, we do. There's a woman, she's a very famous teacher for Tanakh. And she came with us for her first time, and she's very passionate. So how did she give her Torah? She took a chapter from Tehillim, from the Psalms, and she said it out loud, and they were thinking that's she's giving the Torah.
Right.
And she was saying all the verses.
They're watching.
Yeah.
Maybe the police are watching.
Yeah. But we try to, definitely, that's the main reason, you want to daven, I say, look, there's a special women, before they give birth on the 9th month, they have special kind of things that they do. They do hafrashat challah, they this, that.
Segulot.
Segulot, what's called. I tell them the best thing is to do is go to a Harabait in the 9th month, pray over there, you have a good birth. So that's a good segula.
So, I think for anyone that's watching, this is so encouraging because, what we're doing here today is we're really, from every angle that we possibly can, we are trying to reinforce the consciousness, the hope, the desire, the joy of the fact that there really is a Temple Mount. It's right here, and there really is going to be a temple. And we've heard from so many different people about this process of beginning to recognize and waking up and all the things that are going on. And this is just such I think, a historic thing for women to be committed to making this step, and it's like part of a Jewish woman's really role in raising her family. That's how you're looking at it. Like the women should be at the forefront of this as well. So I know you'd like to take this opportunity to speak directly to our viewers and invite them really to participate with you at Nashim Leman HaMikdash. So please do that and tell it.
First of all, we have. I think it's first women that want to come invite us to hear lectures, okay? Because we like to give a lecture before to prepare the women. You can't come to Harabait without you preparing, okay? To understand the importance, where you're going, why to go up. So first of all, women, really tell women that want to invite us, okay, to give in their house, in their neighborhood, in their yeshuv, whatever. We'll give a lecture to a group of women, and then we do an organized aliyah, okay? We go up to Harabait, and like an example, we did it with the yeshuv, what's the name of Talmon. So we came over there, and then there was a group of women that went up to Harabait. That was something really very special. They came back, and they did a whole special meal, Thanksgiving meal for the day of their first time going up to Harabait. So I want to call women that want to hear us, want to join us. So first of all, now, and also to donate, because now we're working. Unfortunately, up to this moment, we don't have a website, but actually these days...
I was just going to ask you if
we're working on our website because this woman, we don't have enough, we need a little bit money for that. So women that want to help us to donate to build this website. We want to go and publicize in newspapers. There are groups of women that go up. So they're welcome to do so. So first of all, I want to give my personal email address, and so it's Tzipora. I'll say it slow. It's Tzipora, TZIPORAH 10 @gmail.com. And also we have a phone number. I think they wrote it on the screen. The phone number. You're welcome to call. You're welcome to send an email. And any women, either in Hebrew, either in English, will give the lectures and will organize women. And that's what's going to bring the Geula. The more women are going to be there, pray there, for their kids, for their husbands, for the whole nation, things are going to change. It's dependent on us. It's not dependent on the top. It's dependent on each individual woman. So really, I hope women are going to join us. And we have the opportunity to see a film or not. We had a short film to see women. We don't have the opportunity. Okay, so whoever wants to, so maybe a different time, we see women going up to, and that's really very special.
And really is just another sign that we are bringing the redemption. The men of Israel, the women of Israel together are remembering the Temple Mount, remembering Hashem's house, not like Haggai the prophet says, Hashem's house lying desolate, and each one of us is running to our own house. But we're remembering that His house is the most important thing, and it has a direct reflection on our house. So it's just such a wonderful thing to hear that we have this awakening. And again, you're a champion, you are a righteous mother in Israel, leading this movement, and we wish you tremendous success. And we're so thankful for you being with us here today on the 3rd Annual International Temple Mount Awareness Day. And everyone can also participate in all of the activities of the Temple Institute and all of the research, development, preparation for the Holy Temple, the building of the vessels, everything that goes into the activism and the education and the research of doing everything that we can in our time for the Holy Temple. And you can also be part of sponsoring all these activities and this event by calling 1-800-940-9121. And together, the men, the women, the whole world, we're all united, as we were talking about with Yehuda, in our desire to see the rebuilding of the Holy Temple in our time here on Mount Moriah in Jerusalem. And we thank you so much. Stay tuned, because we have more fascinating guests, and we're continuing here on the 3rd Annual International Temple Mount Awareness Day.
לזכר קודשו והודו, לזכר קודשו הודו, לזכר קודשו והודו, לזכר קודשו. למען יזמר לך כבוד, יזמר לך כבוד, ולא ידור. למען יזמר לך כבוד, יזמר לך כבוד, ולא ידור. שיבתי אליך, ותרפאני, שמע השם בחנני, השם היה עוזר לי. למען יזמר לך כבוד, יזמר לך כבוד, ולא ידור. למען יזמר לך כבוד, יזמר לך כבוד, ולא ידור. אליך השם אקרא, ואל השם אתחנן, ברצונך אמרת להרי עוז, הסתרת פניך,